That's them at the very top up there. If you can see that big light up there right beside it, them three little heads up there. There's a skier coming down the middle there. That's Tom and Chase and Gabby. And they're slowly getting ready to come over the hump here. They're getting their stuff lined up. A couple of skiers in front of them. Here they come. Just getting closer. They're not quite coming yet. I maybe started this a little bit soon. I thought I wanted to catch it right from the very beginning. They're still sitting there. I don't know how many of these seconds I can send on data, but we'll see. There they are. There's them at the very top. You see the bright light up there. There's the three little tiny looking helmets there. That's the kids. 1, 2, 3. It looks like there's a fourth kid there too. And they're getting ready to come down. Yep, the slope is wide open. And it's there. They haven't left yet. Okay. I'm going to turn this. Okay. Here we are now. If you want to see me and my little neck of the woods. I haven't filmed since I came back from the Mayo just before Thanksgiving. So this is my first film, and I got my neat little camera microphone on. And I'm supposed to be able to turn this thing around. I'm showing me, but then I want to turn it to, I don't know which has the best camera, the forward-facing one or the back one. I need to learn that. But this stupid thing, I don't know what all these buttons do. Okay, I got it turned around. So I'll put that little patch in. I'm right here in my little town of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I got my mic on, so you should be able to hear me good. This is just a spur of the moment. I was going to take my granddaughter to Fargo to take her car into the shop in Dilworth there. And then all of a sudden, she didn't have the key, so we couldn't do it right now. We got a storm coming. This is the lull before the storm right here. We're 35 degrees. Take the look. This is Detroit Lake. So you hear Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and the Detroit Lakes is because of Big Floyd and Little Floyd. And this is actually as far off as you can see over there. That's Big Detroit. And you'd never know it. There's a sandbar in between there, but it isn't much of a sandbar because the boats all shoot through. So you see the tree line on both sides there. Where that tree lines on both sides come over, then this is everything we're looking at. All these ice fish houses are Little Detroit. And there we are. There's a guy. He's going to pull his pickup out on the ice. That's how you do it. There's probably, I don't know if there's 2 feet of ice out there, but there could be, that you can drive semis. I don't know if you could take locomotives across there, but they show pictures of big logging trucks just loaded. And then occasionally somebody goes through too, so it ain't a foolproof deal. But look at that, and you could put another, 100 houses out there with that 100 that's out there, and another 100 trucks like that. There's trucks are about 6,000-8,000 pounds a piece. The ice is really solid when you get enough of it. Okay, so here now I'm turning the corner here. This is absolute ice. This is the guy from started up a business here at Absolute Ice. Started up a business in town here. He named it Absolute Ice. This is our new Marriott Fairfield Inn and Suites. I think I don't know if there's any condos in there or not, or just fancy hotel rooms probably. And it's got kind of a restaurant right in front of it there. This is a brand new structure. This other one here is Lake Shirts. We're kind of famous for Lake Shirts. Guys started it in a garage like the Bill Gates and all them and Steve Jobs, and these guys were dyeing t-shirts. And then they ended up at just a worldwide supplier. They got, I don't know, 100 employees or something like that. This is a Lakeside Tavern, been here since 1891 or something. And just a bar and a restaurant. And outdoor seating there in the summer. And this is the motels down the strip there. There's just about a dozen motels and a bunch of condos. Here's a guy bringing his four-wheeler. Winter sports. And this is that same beach. I don't know how many more of these springs I got. This would be the same as spring, except we got this is 35 degrees. But, and what is it, January 9th or 10th? And, but it's going to be 12 below zero tonight. So in the next, what is coming? You get these modern weather forecasts, you know, they're able to tell us what that weather's doing. And we got a storm coming in from the Dakotas, northeast and south all three, or northwest and south all three, coming in from California and coming in from Canada and coming in from Texas, and that's my little car there. That's my, I have these little signs on my car too, like I do that on my website here, just like I have kind of my rusty little trusty Ford Festiva. I just love it. I've actually got about 3 of these. Yeah, so if one goes down, I just get in the other one. And they're hard to find, and not worth a ton of money. They're worth $600-800 bucks. But $600-800 bucks is a 40 mile to the gallon car. Yeah, you know, 40 miles to the gallon. Some get 42, but so I just drive anywhere and everywhere. I never have to think about gas. Well, gas is cheap right now. Our gas right here in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, we're like $2.25 a gallon, which for modern day pricing is pretty reasonable. So I was supposed to take my granddaughter to Fargo. Now I see she's texting me now, but I'm not going to talk to her for a second here. So I got 5 and 36 minutes here. So now you get to see my second. Now I can be right here 5 hours from now, and the wind is going to start howling, and it's going to go for about 15 hours. The temps are going to drop from 35 above to 12 and 15 and 20 below zero, and dangerous wind chills. And then we're going to stay cold. This storm is only going to last for about 12 or 15 hours. And then it'll be all ice and snow. And then it'll be the cold temps for another probably a week or so. So this looks like spring coming, but it ain't. And then we got all the rest of January, and we still got all the rest of February. And that can be a real monster. And you never know. You get January thaws and February thaws, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's 40, 50 below, and you never know what these weather currents are going to do. So I'm back in Detroit Lakes, been here for this 2 months, and I'm having problems with my hiatal hernia, eating and stuff. It's making me really deathly sick, so I got to figure out something for that. Other than that, my ALS is just a progressive thing. And I mentioned a little bit ago, I don't know how many of these springs I'm going to have, but I got this one. I got this one in the bag. I'm not going to be in the wheelchair or dead come April. My birthday is in April 11th. Ice is off of this lake right here. You can set your clock. April 15th, there will not be any ice on this lake. It'll be open water. Now, sometimes it's as early as April 1st or even March 25th or something. But on the average, April 15th. Sometimes there'll still be ice April 15th, and it'll go on to the 20th and 25th, but not usually. And all the lakes, our 10,000 lakes, are all frozen just like this. And all of them will be thawed by the middle of April. You know, the farther north we are, the few more days difference, and the farther south, a few days sooner. So I'm going to cut this one, and I'm glad I got the film here. You know, this is, I'm a dying man, and I got maybe 1 year here, I don't know that I can be here a year from now, standing here like this, and saying spring's coming and storms on the way. I don't know if I can be here January 10th a year from now. If I am, that'd make me really happy if I'm still can walk and talk and drive. But the potential for being not just bedridden, but being immobile and can't even talk and can't even breathe and can't even move an arm or a leg is a very serious probability. So I'm getting these few months I got here, and my arms and hands and legs, my legs just, I can't notice it, but I'm deteriorating. That's the way it works. ALS. I'll be glad when they find a cure for that. I guess I read it on a little bit yesterday, and they said it goes back into 1820 or 1870 or something. Somebody talking about muscle deterioration and somewhere along the line, and so they've known about it for quite a while. I don't know what the numbers thing is, and that almost predates radiation, but it doesn't, because I'm still thinking radiation is a culprit here. And I got radiation last summer when I busted my fibula. They x-rayed me, a pretty heavy dose of radiation. But it's not known. How could one guy like this reach out and put his finger on? We wish. It might have nothing to do with radiation. It might have to do with just a gene pool. It could have to do with biochemicals, is that what they call them? And it could be fossil fuels, and fossil fuels started coming more into the being. Could have been lead in the gas. We had lead in the gas from 1870 on or something, and it's a complete unknown. But I get to be the bird that gets it, and that pisses me off, but there's nothing I can do about that. If I fell over dead with a heart attack, there's nothing I can do about that. We supposedly take as well care of ourselves as we can. And so I guess I got 10 minutes here. I'm going to turn this off. And I got that earlier clip where I was trying to show me. And then I'm going to get back in the car here and then chit-chat some more with you. Okay, me again. I just got a little nick there. I did that shaving. I'm finding I got to be really careful with my hands. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them or not, but they don't function that well. And so I got to be careful shaving. I cut my nip. One day my grandson was there, and I had blood everywhere, just little tiny nicks, but he counted 9 of them. So at that point I said, oh yeah, I got to be much more careful. So my whole prep for shaving now, I pay attention. I've been having for the longest time, these little tiny cuts don't heal, but I pick at them too, and I shouldn't. But my hands and arms and face, and some of them go on for weeks and months, and it seems like years or something. And don't pack it, it won't heal, And we're doing okay. I got my hat on. I think I'm lots more handsome with my hat on. I take it off once, and I think I'm not quite so pretty. So that's what I do with my hat. I got my tripod at home there, and I got my little phone holder. My granddaughter has it, but she misplaced it, and that I can put this iPhone on. And I got this little microphone. I got a microphone as big as my thumb plugged into my port in my iPhone here. It's the iPhone 6S Plus. And what I'm doing is so that you can hear me, not talk all my stuff, So I'm going to be filming more. I'm going to be filming up at Detroit Mountain. I'm going to be filming at home. I'm going to be filming everything around me. And I'm going to try to get what I can. You got to remember, I'm not going to be able to talk in less than a year or something, and not much after a year. Now, they say 3 to 5 years. Well, that's if you're lucky, and if the time frame that it started at, and the age that it started at, and then it progresses at so many different rates. So it's really an unknown. I could be 3 years from now just talking up a storm and getting around. I don't expect that. Be really good for me, and that'd make me really happy. But I'm seeing but I haven't noticed anything in my speech yet. I get my muscle twitches and my arms and forearms and my biceps and my hands is where I notice mostly. As a matter of fact, almost the only place I notice. But like I didn't notice how bad my forearms were. But I saw my son the other day, and he said, "Man, your forearms, I can really see it." But I wasn't seeing it in my forearms. I was seeing it in my biceps. But after he said that, I looked them over some more, and I'm getting, I got no strength in them hands. But it's not like they're nothing either. I could drive a truck right now. I could go into a potato harvest or something and get in that big old truck and just barrel away for 18 hours a day or something for, some amount of weeks. As a human, we're very strong. So if I'm running at half strength, well, half strength can drive a truck for 18 hours a day nonstop. And full strength, you could do it for, about the same, only you would be a little chirpier and a little less stress on you. And so I got lots of zoom yet. And my brain is 100%. And spirit-wise and all that, that's a little bit of dealings there, having to adjust to this thing, this burp. That's my high ischial hernia. I will burp 10,000 times in a row, and there can't be that much air, otherwise I'd burst. So I think every time I breathe in, it grabs a little of that air and makes it a burp. And depending on what I'm eating, but I'm having serious problems with what I'm eating. I've been really sick 2 out of the last 3 days. And it used to just go 5 or 6 hours if I ate meat or something related to meat, and then it'd be gone. But now it's 12 hours, and the last 2 times here, and I had to just make myself vomit. I put my fingers down my throat deep, and I pull them out, and then I still can't eat, but I'll do that once an hour, and then finally, 3rd, 4th, 5th hour or something, up it'll come, and then which will be the food that I had eaten in that 12, 24 hours. And then I usually don't get it in one. I got it, but right on the heels of that, I'm just slobbering, how horrible it is to vomit. And then finally a pretty big one will come out, usually 30 seconds or a minute after that first kind of somewhat one. Now this last time, and usually then I'm thinking, oh, relief. But it didn't give me relief. And what it was is there was another portion of that. So it all came back, and I suffered for another 5 or 6 hours. And then I finally did the throat thing again, and it wouldn't work time after time, every once an hour. And then finally it did, and I didn't get a lot, but it was enough. Now I'm sitting here, I'm not eating today, and maybe, I don't know about tomorrow or not, but I'm thinking about going on a liquid diet if that's what it takes. I couldn't get any help at the Mayo. They would have operated, and we were having a tussle trying to decide how come meat's doing that, because it shouldn't have been meat doing that. If it's the high ischial hernia, it should have been whatever types of foods causing all them different symptoms. But so we never did get to the bottom of it, and they didn't get mad at me. That one doc got mad at me, and I don't care that he got mad at me. That he was going to send me home. It isn't a parasite, but it's a bug, kind of something in her stomach. I don't remember the name of it now. I got it posted on my website somewhere. I'm not going to say half of the world's population, but 1/3 of it or something. It's just that we have. Sometimes deers have thing in their stomachs, and sometimes porcupines, and they can cure that with a heavy dose of antibiotics. But sometimes a heavy dose of antibiotics, particularly in a situation like mine, where I've got so much going on in my health and age and obesity and this high ischial hernia, my entire stomach is hernia, and not just a little thumb-sized thing or something. My entire stomach, they couldn't even believe it. And 15 years ago when I was down there, they showed a small one. He said something had to hit that stomach. Well, it did. I took a couple of hits on my stomach there. One, I fell and smashed into my stomach, and at that time I was thinking, oh yeah, sure, glad I got that big fat gut to shoulder that fall, And then another time I was putting an umbrella thing up, and it had a really heavy base and a pipe. And that thing drove me, it got away from me. It slipped out of my hands, and it drove me right straight into the stomach here on a slant. And I'm sure that was a severe hit to the stomach. But a stomach could take a pretty good hit. And, like we were fighting or something, pow, hitting that stomach. But that ain't no big deal, And I mean, you feel it. So what I'm saying is you can take a pretty good hit to the stomach without really realizing it. And then another time I was leaning over, reaching into a barrel or something to get some things at the bottom, and cracked and I was using my stomach for a cushion. So we think that that's what did that hiatal hernia, one of those hits. I also, when I broke. Okay, I'm back again. Okay, I'm back again. I had a phone call come in there, and I'm not good at turning these things on and off. I don't know where I was at. I was talking about this whole thing in general, this health. And that I am fortunate for myself and maybe for the world, my family, and if this thing I've got is not a big fiasco about the stimulant drugs that this whole world is taking, and they don't know they're taking it. We're all high, and it's adrenaline. And that's how come the kingdoms became kingdoms, and not just kingdoms, but if you look at every kingdom there is, they're a bunch of murderers and monsters. They just slaughter everybody and make everybody as far as they can reach, whether it's Russia or China or England or, all become slaves to them. They're the great ones. And of course, Europe colonization out of London, England became the, in the kingdoms this last, few thousand years, I think, but 500 years, big time, and 1,000 years, actually, big time. The gunpowder, it's, I guess, originated in China, and guns and swords, and then domesticated horses. Now, I don't know if they had them for tens of thousands of years or what, but they didn't have all of that, the guns and the swords, and then the ships and the cannons, and this lust for power. I always say the partridge, he gets on a log, and he fluffs that thing up in his chest there, and he beats his wings, and in come, the hens, they picking up on this. There's the juices are flowing, and it's an adrenaline mating season for the partridge, and then the males, they get all head up too, and they come around and seeing who's who here, and this guy's up there blowing his pipes, and there'll be some challengers there. They got pipes too, and they're gonna bang up against each other, and I don't know if they use their peck and with their beak and their feet and fight and wings, and whoever's the toughest one, he's gonna hold that log, and the hens are watching all this, and they're okay for that. They're just strutting their stuff around too. They're just feeling their oats, They're just, the energy is up for the mating and breeding season. And, by nature, they're an energetic creature and a bird. But so they, he's got that. And if he gets a little too old and a little too frail there, and his senses aren't quick enough and strong enough, and his fighting abilities, he's going to lose his log, his spot there, and another younger one's going to take it, and he's whipped, and he's going to have to go away there, and he's still alive and breathing, but he's took a wheat, and he's used to being king of that log, in this particular territory they're in there. He might go over and challenge another one. Maybe he'll get another log, but they don't take over the whole forest. See, they got their territory. A salmon, he goes upstream, and the hens, I'll call them hens, the females, they're there, and the males, and he makes a kind of a nest there, and it's in these creeks and streams and stuff, and in small rivers and larger rivers, and pockets off to the sides and stuff for the breeding. And they have made a 2-year journey out follow these rivers till they hit the main oceans and stuff. And some of them were, I don't know, halfway around the world or something. But their instincts bring them back in 2 years. and it's time for them to breed and then die. That's their life cycle. So they come up and down these streams and find and it's the whole works of them are coming, you know. It's just like a herd of buffalo or something, and they're coming up the streams and all over, you know, North Coast, East Coast, and the Great Lakes, and into the streams for the breeding. And he uses his fins and knocks out and makes a kind of a nest spot there for the hens or the females to come in. And so, and he's got, and the males will challenge him, see, and he's got this hump comes on his nose there, and he kind of rears up and gets all, he's in his fighting mode. And whoever is the toughest of them salmon, they get to have the best nesting areas, and then the hens are watching all this, or the females, and then they'll come in, and in the salmon's case, they lay their eggs. And because that's a good spot, they like that spot because here's that male there, and they don't know why, but they don't gotta know why. They know they like it, and they like being there, and they like him, and he likes them, and they're laying eggs, and then now he's got his eggs, and he's got everything protected. He's guarding his territory there, and then he goes over the top of his eggs, and he sperms on those eggs, and milky kind of with the sperm, and it fertilizes them eggs, and then here come the new little babies, however many days it is beyond that. Now the male and female in the salmon world, they've done their cycles now, and they're going to die. But he doesn't take over the whole stream. He's satisfied with that. And the deer, he doesn't take over the whole. You know, they'll rut and buck and fight. Well, a man does the same thing. And he'll rut over territory, and he's showing off for the girls and the women, and you know, it's a spirited kind of a thing, and it's very natural. It's very good, and we're a grouping, you know, buffalo group in large groups, and wolves and chimpanzees, and you know, some in, what do they call them, troops, I think, in the chimpanzee, gorillas, monkeys, that's all the primates, you know, and ducks, they flock, you know, and a lot of the different birds, and you know, now there's a lot of creatures more solitary. I think a skunk is more solitary. They'll find mates when they reach their maturity, in their sense, and then the beavers, they have their colonies. So all this is so we got these human instincts, mating, as part of our life cycle, and it's a wonderful part of our life cycle, like it is for all species. But what has happened with all these stimulants, they've exaggerated all of our senses. And I'm talking alcohol, caffeine, nicotine. I'm talking the sugars and the starches and the wheat and milk and juice and honey and hybrid fruits and grains and vegetables and processed sugar. And these are all stimulants. They're all man-made. Now, we don't think that. I didn't think that 10 years ago. I thought when I first discovered that wheat was the same thing as wheat flour was the same thing as refined sugar, I said, how can that be? You know, wheat is seeds. That's nature, you know. And it wasn't very many days after that I was on Google trying to get to understand that. And it was pretty much a given. There's been enough study there on that with the people with diabetes and whatnot, that when you could take a teaspoon of sugar, you could take a teaspoon of wheat, or a piece of bread, you know. My one friend, he had to, if he had a diabetes attack, he said, get to McDonald's or something and get me a hamburger. And I said, well, a hamburger for that? And he said, well, the bun, I'll eat the bun. I said, okay, an emergency, he said. Otherwise, usually, he said, it doesn't come down that fast. But so it's been well recognized, but I'm trying to figure out now as I'm looking at this, because I know sugar is a very powerful drug, and most people don't know that. Now they feed this to our little children and babies right now. Grandma's cooking cakes and ice cream and cupcakes and making candy, and you know, it's Halloween and it's Christmas, and now we got Thanksgiving coming, and everybody gets chocolates and chocolate candy, so we're sugar and caffeine in the chocolate, and then milk, of course, and then Pepsis and Cokes and Mountain Dews and the whole arrays of caffeine. And then, of course, the matures, they got their cocktails and their drinks and their vodkas and their whiskeys and their beers and their wine and alcohol. which I consider to be the highest form of sugar. There's people that dispute that. But we think it's just everyday thing, and what I'm getting at is that we went from being those partridge on that log and that salmon in that stream and that deer over here in that field. We took over the whole forest. We just exaggerated beings, and we're just lack of empathy is one of the big ones. They go to murder whole villages. Now, if a murderous village came in and murdered your village, and then you're murdering their village, well, so it's who did what first. But people didn't do that, just like the salmon didn't do that. And the monkeys don't do that. And the wolves don't do that. There are going to be some battles here and there, and there's going to be some skirmishes, and some of them get pretty serious. And it depends on if there's, been like earthquakes or forest fires or something, and there's territorial changes. And whole groupings of species interacting and reestablishing new territories. When nature's got that covered. But it doesn't turn into mass slaughter. Like we came over here to the Americas, and it wasn't just the Americas. We were in India and we were in Africa, and I'm talking we white Europeans now, just killing everything in sight, every man, woman, and child, and we put the fear of God in them, and that's what them generals and them armies for the kings, and their own will too. They're just proud of what they're doing. They're just murdering monsters. The Vikings, just the most murderous monsters there ever was. And, here's your Scandinavian, and the Mongolians, the Chinese, the Egyptians, North Africa, the Greek, this goes back, and their scholars know lots more of these than I do. But at every one of these cultures, you'll find hybrid wheat, the agriculturalization and the farming and the grinding, and the mills. This little town right here, the first thing they did in, 1897 or 19 or something, I think it was late 1800s for most of this area, slaughtered all the Indians and put them on reservations, the one that they didn't chase down and kill, and then slaughter, and wherever there was ground, you put that plow behind that horse, there was plows coming in from the west on the wagon trains and on the trains, and plow that ground and put in that wheat. And we just think this is just a wholesome thing, these pioneers, making a new life in the new world, and we don't realize that they're just the drugs is what they're doing, and then the sugar beets and sugar cane in South, that's where the slaves were brought in for the sugar cane, and we don't realize we're just these warring, killing, murdering monsters, and that's what it's always been, and that's what it'll always be. I mean, look at the Civil War, the North against the South, and we're just slaughtering one another, and that's not, and that was mostly men against men, although there was villages got hurt there too. But when we took over other countries, it was man, woman, and child, and babies. I mean, just slaughtering them. And by the tens of thousands, and it ends up being millions. Now, you'll think, boy, this guy's just talking through his ass. And then they'll say that's nature. That's what the Chippewa did to the Sioux, and the Sioux did to the Arapaho, and all these tribes fought that way. In the Middle East over there, in Australia also, but in the Middle East, them people been doing for thousands of years. They've been killing each other. Well, for thousands of years, they've been on hybrid carbohydrates and caffeine and alcohol and nicotine. Yeah, they've been slaughtering and killing each other, and so is China, until they get it under complete control, like the Egyptians did, and like the different empires throughout China and Russia and Europe and then we come across and took over all the Americas and colonized the whole planet Earth with all the king's horses and all the king's men, that thing you hear me talk about quite a bit. And we just think that's a cute little, nursery rhyme or something. So that's the one. And my take on all this is that we're all stimulated out of our minds and we don't know it. I knew a guy one time, he thought it was the fluoride in the water that was making people, and that he thought it was like a conspiracy, very deliberate. And I see it as just a great big accident. We don't even know we're doing it. Queen Elizabeth does not know she's a monster. Prince Harry and that new gal of his and Andrew and Philip and all them people, they don't think they're a bunch of monsters. But if you look at them pictures hanging on the wall behind them, and then do a history search on them. You got some information coming your way about a bunch of murdering kings and all these. But we put it up as the heroes. These are our heroes, going and doing all this murdering for us. We got nothing but heroes. My dad was a hero. Huh? My uncle was a hero. My uncle and my dad fought the war, and my other aunts and uncles. And my grandmother was a full-blood English woman, and Perkins, Daisy Perkins, and she met my grandfather, Victor Bunnell, who was full-blood French. She was working in a bank, and he was a rich Nebraska. This is just down south of us here in Nebraska. He was a rich cattle rancher's son. There was 2 sons, and then there was 2 daughters working in the banks of the English Perkins family. And they met up and ended up marrying. My granny and her sister each married one of those 2 guys, and then they came here to Detroit Lakes. Granny did. The other one, he hired onto the railroads and worked 50 years. He was a Gold Star railroad guy or something. But my grandmother, she was very patriotic. When World War II broke out, Hitler and Japan, but Bird, she was patriotic before that World War II. Bird was already in the military, and my Uncle Morris was already in the military. She thought military was a good thing. See, my dear granny was 100% British Stockholm syndrome and never had a clue. And the British, the French, and everybody. So it isn't my dear granny. She was just a wonderful, wonderful, loving soul. Never realized that, and of course, they're thinking in terms of we're defending our country and we're defending ourselves from all these enemies. We don't realize that this whole insane thing of different nations rising up and taking over other nations is all just pure insanity in the first place. And so they're not these great kings and queens and royalty and all these fine horses and Buckingham Palace and them guards and the crown jewels, and that is all just pure shit. It's all pure insanity. And if they weren't murdering hundreds of millions of women and children and babies, but that is what they're doing. That is what they've done. If you think those numbers are too great, there's 50 million people died in World War II. 50 million. That's just World War II. World War I was the war to end all wars. And we don't know how many were slaughtered taking over India. But if you think those people in India just laid down and let these Europeans come in and take over their whole country, you're sadly mistaken. They fought, but then they were overwhelmed. Just like the portions of China, and just like the Egyptians overwhelmed parts of Africa there, and just whoever got the biggest army going, and everybody got on board with them. But they had to get on board. Egyptians went around, and now when the Egyptians heard Moses was going to be born, which he didn't have a name Moses yet, excuse me, they heard about a king was going to be born. This is as the story is told in the Bible, and most people pretty much believe it. I do. I believe it has basis as a reality, not as a God happening out of the sky. Other people are talking it up there, and they're seeing another pyramid get built. They've been slaves for 300 years or something, and all born into slavery. Their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their whole lives as slaves for these goddamn Egyptians building them fucking pyramids. And they had a pretty close tune in with them in all this slavery and all their living quarters and their food and this whole thing. The Egyptians who held them as slaves and made them do all the work. So they hear that there's going to be they're going to get away. They're going to break their bondage, and there's a great king going to come amongst them, and it's going to be. So they go out and kill all those babies, baby boys. I think all of them 2 years and under or something like that. And then the one baby, the mothers hid and slid out in the rushes and hoping that baby, that they wouldn't find him. Maybe they would go back and get their baby after all them people were gone. But it turns out that, as the story goes, that when the Egyptian women And now they've killed all countless babies. And women are women, and then here's the Egyptian women now, and they're saying, no, they protected this one. And so he comes up, and that's the whole thing. He learns about their mystical gods reaching up to. They're building those pyramids. They've got this highly intelligent, and then there's reaching up to the gods with their hallucinations from all their stimulants. So that Egyptians were all stimulant driven, and that's how that whole thing came to be. Just like the European kingdoms and King James and King George and Queen Elizabeth and all them people. And like I say, the Mongolia, I mean, it's all over the globe. But it is, all of Africa and all of Australia and all of the North and South America, they did have, now the Incas were the newest ones, but before the Incas were the Aztecs and the Maya. And they had caffeine in the form of chocolate. That's where chocolate actually originated. And in Europe they had tea, and in China they had tea and coffee beans, tea leaves. But when they came to the Americas, the Aztec and the Maya and now the Inca had the chocolate plant. But and I'm sure they had alcohol, fire water. I don't know how much of it they consumed. They had tobacco, nicotine. They had hybrid corn, hybrid potatoes. So stimulants, and they became warring monsters, pyramid building, blood sacrifices, lack of empathy. It's this adrenaline thing, and the adrenaline kicks in. And the superiority, boy, I mean, you can't tell them nothing. They just know it all, and then they are these great ones, and then they got to have these enemies, and so this whole thing just goes on and on and on and on. That's where we're at today, and Donald Trump's out there front and center, just going to build that wall and going to make America great again and bring back jobs and more. And our heroes, we got to have our heroes in there, boy. Everywhere they go, our heroes, our murderers that murder for them so that they can maintain this stronghold. And so I must say, my dad, he went in there innocently to avenge his brother's death, and Bird was there. Bird went down with a ship. They didn't know until after the war was over how many of them went down with the ship and how many of them made it to shore or swam. They were close enough, I don't know, a few miles to shore and somewhere around Java or something. But Bird went down with a ship. About over half of the sailors did on the USS Houston. And then my dad, he joined. They had big banners all over America. Avenged the U.S. Houston. And there was a bunch of other banners promoting everybody to join. And of course, they'd come out and get you and draft you if you didn't join anyway, because it was a big war going on. I believe they were coming out to the farms, and if you didn't go in and sign up to 42 years old, I'm told, they were still, automatically 18-year-old, 17-year-old, and 18-year-old, 19, everybody, they just go, bang, that's it. And you go where they send you. And if you're an infantryman with a rifle in your hand, you're that. And if they put you on a Navy ship or an airplane or put you in a base somewhere or handing out shoes to everybody, wherever they put you, and you fight the fight and fight the war. And that, of course, that was easy to justify that because the Japs had attacked us, but we're not looking behind that. And Hitler was bombing London, England, and going to take over the whole world. He was insane. He had, on top of all the stimulants and stuff, sugars and the caffeines and the alcohols and the caffeines and the nicotines, he got amphetamines, which was actually developed in Germany, I think in the early 1900s, 12 or 1918, and by 1930. So he's hiring a kite. His doctors are giving him this goddamn amphetamines, stark raving mad to start with, and then the superiority, and then of course it isn't just Hitler. He's got his generals and everything, and I don't know just how many. And then Hirohito in Japan, he thinks he's God. And he's on methamphetamines on top of sugar and alcohol and caffeine and nicotine and wheat and milk and juice and honey and rice and sake and whatever they got over there. This thing is a real alligator, man. This thing is just a monster. And this is my discovery, and that living soul knows it. I saw somebody posted the other day, I won't say exactly who it was, but it was a relative, and they're scoffing and laughing at me, you know, talking this stuff like I'm talking right here, like I'm this crazy guy, see? And they're the ones, hey, this stupid Bunnell, you know, this one guy said, and I come back and commented on this stupid Bunnell. I told him his alcohol and his IQ were showing, both of them. You know, he thinks he's Mr. Blowhard with his alcohol, and he thinks he's Mr. something scoffing and laughing at me. I'll take him apart. Just come right to me, my friend. You know, I'm not scoffing and laughing at his ass. He's scoffing and laughing at me. And so what I got to say here is real, and I'll defend it to the death. And these fools that can't absorb this and can't fathom this, and there's some real fools in this world, I'll tell you. You know, and they're bullies, and and they think they're so goddamn great, you know, and they don't know they're brainwashed monsters, and they're joining there in this whole thing. They think they're military vets, you know, yeah, they was in Vietnam, you know. They got a brain in their fucking head, you know, that, you know, I could have been a Nam. It's just as innocent as the rest of the guys. I'm not knocking the Nam guys. They're good guys, you know. But what I'm saying is, if they're going to wear that on their chest and going to sit there and laugh in my fucking face, then come get it, Charlie. You know, there's plenty of me here yet. And they'll be the last breath I breathe, you know. I got something real here, and I got something valid. And it needs to be looked at. And then everybody puts it on the table and then weigh it out. And look at what stimulants do to the human minds and emotions and the human psyche and our feelings and our senses and everything about us. And they alter all those things. And I'm saying that's what turned us into monsters. So I'm saying this old hero thing and all his soldiers defending and killing for these governments so that these rich kings can have more and more of everything. You know, their insatiable greed and their superiority, you know. This is natural. That guy feels pretty superior. That Parker took over that log. He feeling pretty superior. He feeling pretty goddamn good. And so is that salmon, you know, and that's what it's supposed to be, you know. But when you get beyond that, you know, we're a spirited, healthy creature. We're not a bunch of murdering monsters. This is the thing I'm trying to put to an end here. And make things better, you know. And I got a car pulling up beside me here now, and I'm filming. He's turning around, I guess. I'm a little bit out here in the ice, but he's just turning around, so that's no problem. She doesn't want to drive through there, I guess. So here I am blowing my tubes, you know, and pipes, and this is a pretty long one here. I'm still down here at the lake, you know, you can see here. And I got my microphone, so I'm gonna post these. I got 2 or 3 of them. I'll load them into iMovie right now, and I put them on my website. And howdy everybody. Letting you know I'm still alive and well. I had a tough couple of days here. I was sicker than a dog. I was up all night, couple nights, with this hiatal hernia. But now I'm fasting, and I'm going to be damn careful what I eat. And I was being careful. I just had some corn chips yesterday. And I had the generic ones. I tried to save $1, you know. The Fritos, $4 for a big bag, but they had at the dollar store. They had their version of that for half of that for $1. I think, man, that's a good deal. So I eat like a half a bag of those, and God, this thing starts boiling up in me, and the pain comes. And usually that had been just when I had eaten meat or something, see? So I'm getting on to this here. I'll be back to the Mayo in the middle of February. And I'm getting myself lined up. But so, howdy, hooty hoo, and best to all of you and yours and your kids and my kids and the world's kids and life in general. You know, life is a wonderful thing. And we're not going to change 7.5 billion people. We're not going to turn this thing back to 200 million. We got 7.5 billion. That's the one we're going with, in all these different nationalities. and countries. But as far as Donald Trump, white Christians, everybody eating out of their hand, them being the bullies, I don't want our people to be bullies. And them main heroes going on and killing all these people and making them behave and be like us. And I'm talking North Korea. We don't be challenging that guy. He's just fine. He's over in North Korea. Muhammad Ali said that. I got no quarrel with them people, and that's Cassius Clay. But our business people, see, they got to get their ass in there and just get the hold of everything and everybody, and everybody's got to eat out of their hand, and then they send in the goddamn heroes. All our heroes go in there and jets and bombs and ships and missiles and atom bombs and guns and drones, just bomb the living hell out of everybody, and then now they're going to behave. Now, then we'll bring in our missionaries, our nice white Christians. Oh, such nice people, and then, of course, all the people are just awestruck and they're on their hands and knees, Then we'll take their soul, and then we take all their resources and energy and their gold and their oil and whatever else they got, And then, of course, just having all that vast territory that we control, and there are other empires out there. There's Russia's an easy one to think of, and China's a big one, and Australia's I guess Australia's us. And there's India now. They finally, now, do you realize India, since 1948, I guess, they've been pretty much got Great Britain out of there. It took them till 1948, if you can imagine that. In Hong Kong, we were in there till